Welcome, my lovely 9Z business class. I'm going to be covering you on some things that you will need for your assignment that is due on this Friday. And I'm going to be giving you specifically some guidance on the worksheets that are due 15, 16, 18, and 19. There is no worksheet 17. So let me go ahead then and we'll start off. What I've displayed here is I Achieve, and you are welcome to follow along here. And the first unit, the first session of I Achieve, Unit 1, was all about business structures. This one's getting a bit more exciting. It's about the 4 ingredients that make up a successful business. This is referred to as the marketing mix, or the 4 Ps. So obviously, you've already started this section, and you've done one spreadsheet, spreadsheet 14, on the difference between products and services. But I'm just going to review that one more time, as I think it will help you. There are 4 Ps that make up the marketing mix, and they are product, place, price, and promotion. And all 4 of the worksheets that you have due this Friday have to do with product. So marketing basically can be described simply as the promotion and or selling of a company's product or service. Basically, if a business is going to be successful, it obviously needs to sell its product or service to customers. And marketing is an excellent way to tell customers about your product or service. So everything we are doing today ties into the first P, product, of the marketing mix. So the marketing mix is a combination of marketing tools and techniques that can help a company to sell its products and services to the right target market. So again, you will need to understand from this section the importance of the product to the marketing mix, the importance of the place of business to the marketing mix, the importance of the price of the product to the marketing mix, and the importance of the promotion strategy of the marketing mix. So again, here are the 4 Ps. You can see under each one, there is a picture. So the price, the product, the place, and the promotion. If a company wants to market its products or services successfully, all 4 of these Ps, product, place, price, and promotion, need to be mixed in the right way. And this illustration just shows you how important it is. A business needs to have a product or service that customers want to buy. And that's all about what we're going to be focusing on today. It must be sold in a place that the target customers will visit or use. And we'll talk about that in later sessions. It must be at a price that is acceptable to the customer. And again, we'll talk about that in later sessions. And if customers are to be attracted to the product, the business must carry out distinct promotion activities that draw people into buying that product. So looking right now at the marketing mix, a new business may have to focus more on promotion in its marketing mix in order to build up the popularity amongst customers. For example, a well-established business, on the other hand, might require less promotion. If a business has lots of competitors, then price becomes a really important part of the marketing mix. So businesses will usually rely on its market research to help decide on its marketing mix. By collecting the right information from potential customers, a business can work out which products to sell, what price customers are likely to pay, the places where customers will go to buy the product, and the types of promotion that will appeal to these customers. So let's look then at the first of the 4Ps, which is product. And this again is where all of your worksheet work will come in for the worksheets that are due by this weekend. So you have two different product types that we talked about: tangible and intangible. Tangible are goods. Remember, they are products that you can touch and feel. Services, on the other hand, are more actions. They are not objects. They are intangible, and they are products that you experience as opposed to that you can touch and feel. So your first worksheet that you completed under the 4Ps, and everyone has already done this one, was the worksheet on goods and services. And here you had to show which of these items were goods and which items were services. And the questions all had to do with the difference between goods and services, to make sure that you could describe what the difference was. Question 3 pointed more towards the design of a new mobile phone. It asked you to describe what a budget option looked like, who was the customers, what functions would you expect of the phone, and what would the best price be for a budget option versus a luxury option. And then you were asked to pick one intangible product, one service basically, and one tangible product or one good, and name the product, describe the product, and talk about who the target customers were. So that worksheet is already completed. You don't have to worry about that one. So moving right back then to the product, there is a product life cycle. Like all of us, products also have a life cycle. And there are various phases to that life cycle, and there are 4 identified here. The first phase is the introduction. Think of this as how we are when we're babies. There is a lack of customer knowledge, just like a baby doesn't have any knowledge of the world around him or her. There are always low sales in introduction because that's where the selling process starts. There's a lot of advertising. The advertising expense is very high, and there's very little money being made, usually a loss being made during the introductory phase. And there is low market share because the product or service has very little of the market that they've been introduced to at introduction. So for products that make it out of the introduction phase, for those that begin to gain traction, for those that begin to gain sales, they move into what's referred to as the growth phase. In the growth phase, sales increase. Customer knowledge about your product increases. Profit may begin in this phase, and if it's already begun, it will rise up in this phase fairly dramatically. And competitors may begin to enter the market. The reason why competitors enter the market now is because you've already proved the concept in the introductory phase. So they're going to try to copy you and do it better in the growth phase. And then you move into the maturity phase. This is where sales are at their maximum. Profit is generally maximized. You're making the most money that you ever will in the maturity phase. Competition levels are very high because you remember your competitors have entered the market in the growth phase. Customer interest is at its peak, and there is no further room for sales expansion. So this would be the maturity phase, and ultimately products that make it through the maturity phase go into the decline phase. And in decline, sales decrease, customer interest drops, customers switch to substitute products and services that they find better, and the product becomes unfashionable or undesirable. So there are things that companies can do, however, to extend life cycles. And these are called product life cycle extension strategies. So there are a range of strategies available to business, but three that we are potentially looking at are: a business could launch a new advertising campaign. They could reinvigorate interest in their product or service by advertising in a different way, in a way that attracts different customers to that particular product. They could price it differently, make it priced, for example, so low that it really piques customer interest, and customers that weren't willing to invest in it are now buying that product or service. Or pricing it high for collectible or rare items. A high price can suggest great value. So different pricing strategies could extend the product life cycle. And new product features, new things that the product or service does. A new camera, maybe, if it's a mobile phone, for example. Something that attracts customers to the product all over again. Now, it's also important, companies that want to stay in business and stay healthy in healthy business need to invest in development and innovation. They need to remain competitive by having the very latest technology or the very latest approach in their product or service. They need to constantly go into new markets to expand the customers that are potentially interested in this product or service, and they need to focus on dramatically increasing their market share. So you'll find, again, lots of useful information in iAchieve that will help you to do well in these areas. Customers' tastes change over time, and they won't want to buy exactly the same product or service forever. For this reason, every product and service has a life cycle. So the term product life cycle refers to the life of a product from its creation to launch, through growth in popularity and ultimately decline as customers' preferences change. So the idea of a life cycle can relate to individual products, such as an iPad or a chocolate bar, or it can be applied to an entire market or sector. For example, broadband services, personal computers, televisions, etc. A typical product life cycle is shown in the graph below. So you can see very, very gradual ramp up in sales during the introductory phase, rapid growth in the growth phase, this peak, this top of the curve in the maturity phase, and then we go into the decline phase. So the extension strategies that we talked about, new advertising campaigns, perhaps trying new messages or advertising in new places to attract different customers. New pricing strategies, again, possibly reducing prices to encourage customers to buy, adding value, offering some extras that weren't there before that increase the value to the customer, and also updating the appearance of the product to make it look new and innovative. So again, the other way to focus on extending the product life cycle is to focus on product development and innovation. All companies, for example, Apple, remains competitive by continually seeking to launch new products and adds innovative new features to existing products. And this helps to keep the products desirable to customers and maintain interest in the products that Apple has to offer. So Apple is a prime example of someone who's constantly extending, a company that's constantly extending the product life cycle through innovation. So again, there are other ways innovatively to extend the life cycle, entering new markets, increasing its share of existing markets also can help to extend the product life cycle. So we have a couple of worksheets that relate specifically to the product life cycle. I'm going to go over those with you. So the first one that's already been completed is worksheet 14. So I'm not going to focus on that. I'm going to start with worksheet 15. And this is the first of those, which is due by this Friday. So product cycle. Question one is a case study. You work for a company which makes phones. You've decided to create a luxury mobile phone which is now ready to launch. When a product is introduced or launched, the company has many issues to consider. Your customer knowledge of the product is low and sales are low. So what would you do in this situation? How would you increase customer knowledge and therefore drive sales? What would you need to do as an action item? Well, obviously, customers need to find out about your product. So how are you going to inform them? That makes up the central questions here. Central question. Question two is, other issues to consider are advertising costs are high, profit is low or a loss is probably being made in a luxury phone, and the market share is low. Why is profit likely to be low at the launch of a new product? Give at least 3 reasons in your answer. So obviously, one reason is that sales are low. But there are a couple of others, at least a couple of other reasons that you might want to think about. So sales being low, that impacts your revenue. But there are a couple of issues that impact your cost that have to do with coming up with the idea and making the phone. What are those 2 expenses that you would add on to the low sales to describe why profit is under pressure? That's what I'm looking for in the answer to this question. Why is advertising so important? Give at least 3 reasons for your answer. If a company didn't advertise, what are the 3 worst outcomes that could come from not advertising a new product or service? And then the next question is, if no money was spent on advertising, give at least 3 outcomes to the business. So what's the worst case scenario if a business doesn't advertise? And it's pretty severe. Then last, the question is, what is low market share and give a definition. And this ties into what we're going to be looking at in a moment as we look at the Boston Matrix. So what is low market share? Give a definition of low market share in your answer. So think about what low market share is. And then lastly, find 3 products that are new to the market and complete the chart below. So you're looking for a product that is new. Name of the product. Is it tangible or intangible? Is it a good or a service? Who is the company producing the product? What advertising can you find that they are running? And who is this advertising targeted at? You need to complete all 3 products. So just look on the internet, search for new products and services, and see if you can identify 3 of them. It could be a video game. It could be a hair product. Any new product or service, pick 3 of them and put them on this sheet right here. Okay. So next, we're going to be looking at worksheet 16, and worksheet 16 asks you to define a couple of things. Worksheet 16 asks you to define what product growth is. So in order to do that, the best way to define product growth is to look at product growth stage of the life cycle. So if you go back to iAchieve, for example, and you page back to page 5, you will have a description of what product growth means. And this is the essence of the answer that you should include in that item in worksheet 16. So product growth would feature increased sales, increased customer knowledge, profit may begin or rise, and competitors may enter the market. That's the essence of what I'm looking for there. Then similarly with product maturity, define the maturity phase and indicate what the key attributes are of the maturity phase. So how can a business encourage growth for this product? From the last session's homework activity, choose one of your products, that's one of those 3 from worksheet 15, and include them here. So how can a business increase sales for this product? So think about that particular product you've selected, write it in here so you remember what it is, and then answer the question, how can a business increase sales for the product? And keep in mind, key to increasing sales is customer knowledge. How can a business ensure customer knowledge about the product is increasing? What does a business need to do to increase the customer knowledge? And at what point will the product begin to make a profit? What needs to happen to make a profit? Remember, the revenues need to be greater than the costs of developing that product. So that's what goes there. And why may competitors start to enter this product market? Why is it that as you move out of the introductory phase, competitors want to enter the market? What have you already done that a competitor views as valuable as you move from the introductory to growth phase? What have you proved that a competitor wants to jump on the back of? Then the next part of worksheet 16 are to look at these various products and, based on a brief amount of research, decide whether they're in the growth stage or the maturity stage and why. What makes them either in the growth phase or the maturity phase? Just these products listed here. And lastly, research 2 products that you feel have moved into the next stage of the life cycle, which is decline. Find 2 products and put them in these 2 boxes that you think are in the decline stage, that they are literally at the point where sales and interest in them are dropping off. Again, it could be a video game, could be a gaming console itself. You don't necessarily have to use something from an adult world. Use something that you know about, that you can speak authoritatively about, and include 2 products that you believe are in the decline phase as an answer to this question. So those are the first couple of worksheets, worksheets 15 and 16, that I do need by this weekend. The last 2, there is no worksheet 17. The last 2 are worksheets 18 and 19. And we will look at the content for those momentarily. So here I have on the screen worksheet 18. So the first question is, these are all about strategies that would extend the life of a product. So why would adding more features or new features extend the life of a product? What does it do when you add new and different things to a product? Why does that extend the life cycle? Then in the next column, you've got a real challenge. Based on your research, how can you apply adding more or new features to vinyl records, to those old, great big records that your parents probably had, that you've probably seen laying around the house? Maybe you still have a record player there that plays them. So is there a way that you could add more features and interest more people in going back all of those years to buying vinyl records? When I was your age, we weren't looking for downloads of music. We were looking for these vinyl records, to own as many as we possibly could. Then look at using new packaging. How could using new packaging extend the life of a product? How does that work? And how could you apply that to vinyl records? Targeting new markets. Why would that extend the life cycle of a product? And how does that apply to vinyl records? Interestingly enough, there is one group that still uses vinyl records as a preference, and you will see them used heavily among DJs, disc jockeys at parties and things. They spin the vinyl. So think of that in particular when you're answering that question. How do new advertisements impact the life cycle? How can that extend the life cycle? How does that apply to vinyl records? And pricing strategies, how could that extend the life cycle? And how could that apply to vinyl records? So some tough questions there. Then we're asking you to define innovation. What does it mean to be an innovator? How do companies remain competitive? How do companies enter new markets? What do they need to do to enter new markets? And how do companies increase their market share? What do they need to do to increase their market share? Then you're researching some things that protect companies that innovate. And you're coming up with definitions for each of those. So if you invent a new product, what do you need to do to prevent anyone from copying your idea? What did your research find out? What is a copyright? Look up a definition for copyright and tell me what it means. What is a patent? Look up a definition for what a patent is and tell me what it is and what it protects. What is a trademark and how does that protect your innovation? And please note there are some excellent sources at the bottom of this sheet, places to research to find out more about how companies protect their innovation. So that is the work on the worksheets with one addition. And we're now going to be talking about something called the Boston Matrix. So the Boston Matrix is a way to help you decide how to invest your money. When you're successful and you've accumulated some money, putting it in the bank these days isn't a great idea because the interest rate is very low. So you will make very, very little on your money that way. So it's important that we learn how to invest our money. And the Boston Matrix is a very helpful guide to tell us which products we should invest in. So there are two things that are important to create the matrix. If you look at this picture right here, the first axis is market growth. And that is how fast a given market is growing. Is it a high growth market like mobile phones, for example, are an example of a very high growth market? Or is it a low growth market like restaurants are an example, unfortunately, of a very low growth market? And then, so this describes the entire market. Then we're looking at the specific product, the good or service that's being offered, and what share of that market it has. Does it have a very low market share, or does it have a very high market share? So in that question that you were asked from one of the worksheets to define market share, one of the definitions of low market share is that it is less than 1/2 the market share of the market leader. So if you are less than 1/2 of the leader, so if you're in the mobile phone market and you're less than 1/2 of Apple, for example, you could be considered to have low market share. So what the Boston Matrix does is that it allows you to analyze how companies perform based on these two criteria, based on market growth and market share. So if a company has high market growth, let's say they're in the mobile phone business, and they are the market leader, let's say they're Apple, they are clearly a star. And stars are highly investable. They are companies that you should be able to invest in and to make lots of money by investing in them. So, for example, buying Apple stock, generally that stock has been on an upward trend. Now, there are also companies that have low market growth and a low market share. And these are referred to, and I'm really sorry, I'm a dog lover as well, I hate this term, but they are referred to as dogs. And this would be an example, let's say, an Italian restaurant with no customers in it. Well, we already know that restaurant business is a low market growth business, but they also have a low market share. These are companies whose products and services do not deserve your investment. So again, a low market growth with a low market share, don't invest in them. Then you've got two interesting categories, and these are maybes. The first maybe is from a high market growth, but it has a low market share. A sign of this is in the book market, in the reading market, Kindle. So the reading market, believe it or not, continues to grow extremely rapidly. In fact, one of the things that's happening due to the current virus shutdown is that people are reading more. But Kindle has a very low market share in a high growth market. So it's therefore referred to as a problem child or a question mark. And the question mark really is, why aren't you doing better? So these are companies that you may want to invest in, but only if they can answer the question, what is your plan to increase your market share? Because the issue with them is that they have low market share. So if they have a very good plan as to how they can begin to develop a higher market share, then there's certainly a company that's worth investing in. The other questionable investment is known as a cash cow. A cash cow is from low market growth, but it has a very high market share. So it's accumulating all of this cash like a cow accumulates milk, but it has no place to invest that cash in because its market is growing very slowly. So the question that you need to answer before you give money to a cash cow is, how are you reinvesting all of the profit that you're accumulating? What are you putting that money into? So if a cash cow is investing in a new high growth market, moving themselves into a new high growth market, they may very, very well be worth your investment. They may very well be worth your investment. So, using the Boston Matrix, a business can identify where it should focus effort and resources in order to maximize profit. So it helps the business to decide which products they should continue to offer, which ones may need some further investment, and which ones they could think about getting rid of altogether. And they also help consumers who have money to invest decide what companies and products and services that they should invest in. So let's take a look at the last of the worksheets that is due for this weekend, and that is the Boston Matrix. So all of these questions have to do with the Boston Matrix. So what is market share? What does it mean when a product or a company has a share of the market? What does that refer to? And what does it mean that a market is growing? What do we mean by that? So again, look at your definitions. Think about what market share means in terms of what percentage a product or a company has of a particular market. And market growth, what it means in terms of a high growth market versus a low growth market. And those markets that are shrinking, by the way, there is negative growth as well, they would be considered low growth. Then next, define what a star is in terms of market growth and market share. What is a problem child or a question mark? What are cash cows in terms of market growth and market share? And what are dogs in terms of market growth and market share. So again, very, very simple looking at the material that we just covered. Then it's asking you which of these is a star, a question mark, a cash cow, and a dog. So we'll do the first one together. A forward focus has a large market share in a falling market. So that is a high market share in a low growth market would make them a cash cow. So hopefully that helps you to complete that matrix right there. And here, I'm looking for you to tell me these 4 products, which of these 4 boxes do they fit in? And there's only one per box. And what you do is you just copy the number and you put it in the correct box. So let's do one together. So this one, for example, number 1. So the company makes chocolate and sweets. It supplies shops, hotels, and restaurants. It has a market bestseller of after dinner mints. It has the biggest market share in a specialist market with low growth. So this is a constant seller which helps to bring in regular income for the business. So this one right here, and I'm just using Control C here to copy it. I would put this one, it has a high market share, but it's a low growth market. So I would put this one, and I'm using Control V, under cash cow. You don't have to put all of the verbiage like I did. Just put the number if you want to. But so where would you plot the other 3? Where would you plot 2, 3, and 4 in these various boxes? And that is it for the worksheets that are due and the information that you're responsible for by this weekend. So I'm certainly hoping that you are staying safe and that you are finding ways to connect with people using electronic means. And hopefully this is another one of them where you feel like you're still connected with the world. And I look forward to seeing you back in school at our earliest possible opportunity once it's safe to all be together again. Thanks very, very much. And again, those 4 worksheets are due 9Z by this weekend, please. Appreciate it. Bye now.